Hi, welcome to episode 17 of Pink's Picks, recommendations from a retired English teacher. For today's pick, the clever title is just one of the many things I love about the 440-page The 7 or 8 Deaths of Stella Fortuna. This is Juliet Grames's first novel, and though she had historical inspirations, her greatest inspiration is from her larger-than-life characters within her tight-knit Italian-American family. She is also a book editor as well as an associate publisher at Soho Press. I love in the very end with her dedications that she pays homage to English teachers after my own heart. This particular book spans 100 years from before World War I to present day, beginning in the mountainous Calabria region of Italy, which is down near the bottom of the boot, then continuing through immigration at Ellis Island and settlement in Hartford, Connecticut. She includes in the background what, of course, was happening in Italy during World War I, during the Spanish flu after World War I, and the soldiers having brought that home. Um, she also brings up the Risorgimento or unification, as well as the Fortuna's family immigration taking place on the Countess of Savoy, which would be the last boat that was allowed to leave Italy for immigration prior to World War II, because Mussolini put the kibosh on that. In accolades for Stella Fortuna, the book is compared by one particular critic with Allende's House of Spirits, as well as Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude. I actually find it more similar to two Pulitzer Prize-winning novels. The first would be Jeffrey Eugenides' Middlesex, as far as the sweeping saga of an immigrant family. Of course, in Middlesex, that family is Greek and they're settling in Detroit. As far as protagonists go, I honestly do not like the ironically named Stella Fortuna. I love her family and her story. But in not liking a protagonist, I would compare her to Olive Kitteridge, another Pulitzer Prize winning piece. So, what do I love about this book? For one, I love the structure. It begins with a map of Ievoli. You know how I like maps in the front. Um, we have a family tree, and then we have a preface. The preface, if you did not know that this is a novel, the preface is the narrator's story, who is a descendant of Stella Fortuna, telling the story that she researched and discovered about Stella Fortuna. So it's presented in that respect as if it's fact, when in fact it is fiction. It's then broken into four parts: childhood, youth, maturity, and old age. Each of those parts has its own epigraph or epigraphs, which come from Calabrese proverbs, or in one case, the Italian immigrant story from Ellis Island. The chapters are named for each of her deaths: burns, evisceration, bludgeoning, drowning, rape, exsanguination, choking, cerebral hemorrhage. And this ends with an epilogue. Stylistically, there are, again, many things that I love about this book. Her use of Italian words. Io capisco un po' l'italiano. Yes, I can speak little teeny weeny bit of Italian. However, that didn't work for me here because she uses a Calabrian dialect, which is a kind of combination of Sicilian and Neapolitan. I love her use of author intrusion. She speaks directly to us. You, clever reader, know already. Or you're waiting to hear the story of how Stella almost choked to death. We're almost there. I like her use of analogies. There's one in particular when the first Fortuna relative comes to the United States in the 1920s, and Manhattan was sprouting like a vegetable garden in June, which is just very clever. There's a bit of magical realism, I think, thus the comparison to Gabriel Garcia Marquez as well as Allende. It's minimal, I thought, but it does exist. I like her internal denouement. We talked about that with Bolaway, and instead of at the end, all the loose ends being wrapped up in our finding out what happened to this colorful cast of characters, Grimes stops within the text and tells us what happens to these various friends and family members. Her imagery is very, very powerful, particularly when describing uh, the mountainous town from where they came. Um, I like some of her maxims, which are appropriate considering that we have the proverbs that are included in the epigraphs. For those maxims, even though the ideas are very, very common, the expressions, I think, are very heartfelt. On page 50, without faith, there are no miracles, just coincidences. 54, poverty is dangerous, but prosperity, too, can be deadly, especially when a person blinds themselves to its pitfalls. 153, the worst part of bad news is sometimes not the bad news itself, but having to explain bad news over and over again, to have to endure the reactions of people who are sometimes well-meaning and sometimes only pretending to be well-meaning, and sometimes not even that. 155. In many lives, teenage years are the most vibrant, of greatest impact on the person one becomes as an adult. 164, about the immigration process. You step on a boat knowing it is forever, one way or another. But understanding what forever means, that is something your heart tries to protect you from. I love this book. I would consider it, if not quite a page turner, it's definitely close, something that I wanted to get back to again and again, and read it very, very quickly. And for that reason, I will give this book an A. For next time, we will be discussing the Gloucester Reads book that we're going to be discussing first in my book club, and it is the young adult, The Morrow Thieves. So until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and do your homework.